1059 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Here we go. All right. Off and running with you on a Wednesday, halfway point of the week. Closer and closer to the weekend. Welcome in here on the kind of getting over the hump day. Yeah, okay. Let's just word it that way. We're done with the hump day stuff. Okay, we're just getting over the hump. Welcome in on this Wednesday. Glad to be with you. In the Bureau, that is the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance, go! With the home team. They are the home team. Right here at Farm Bureau. Your hometown heroes, local Farm Bureau insurance agents in all 82 counties around the state of Mississippi. Hey, listen, you can be a part of the show. I hope you will be. Like right out of the chutes, even before we began, I got a comment here on the live stream over on YouTube. Kobe was waiting, and I'm popping it up on the screen for you right now if you're looking at the stream on social media. That'd be YouTube, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter. He dropped a comment on YouTube, said, big weekend for Mississippi State. Yeah. Kobe, do you mean it was or it's going to be? Or both? I mean, I know softball is getting their tails handed to them right now by LSU in the SEC softball tournament. But yeah, baseball coming up, State hosting Ole Miss this weekend. That might be what you're talking about. But at any rate, there you go. See, that's the one way to be a part of the show. Comment on the live stream. Also, you can text me on the Country Pleasing text line. The number to text is 885-3776. That is a 601 number. I'll give that to you again coming up. You can also call me. That way I get to hear your voice on the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. The number to call, 897-1059, 601 number, 897-1059. Top of the show, headlines.
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world.
Good evening, and welcome to Eyewitness News.
Here's what's making news.
Headlines on the show brought to you by the Mortgage Man Group, powered by Luminate Bank right here in Mississippi. Anything mortgage related, that's it. That's where you go. Online, it's mortgagemanms.com. First up, this is national stuff, and you probably already know this, but Dak is going to get a little help out there at wide receiver. The Cowboys are trading for George Pickens from Pittsburgh. So all the reports are that Dallas's search for a number 2 wide receiver opposite of Pro Bowler CeeDee Lamb has wrapped up as they're going to land George Pickens, former Georgia Bulldog, high draft pick, big-time jump ball guy. He's a really, really, really good player. Cowboys and the Steelers agreed to this trade today. It's going to send Pickens to Dallas for a 3rd-round pick next year. Cowboys are also going to give him a 5th-round pick in 2 years. The Steelers get back a 27 6th-round pick. So there's a lot that goes into it. Steelers are getting mostly draft picks as compensation for sending George Pickens to Dallas. All right, and I have an update for you. Jake Mangum, our very own Jake Mangum, out. Groin injury back in late April, playing in a game for the Tampa Bay Rays. He was hot as a firecracker in his first month in the big leagues and then pulled that groin muscle, whatever it is, and came limping up in a game at Arizona and went to the IL. He's been there ever since. So RotoWire updates it today. Headline, Jake Mangum injury, not close to return. It says here, Mangum, parentheses, groin injury, will be evaluated the week of May the 19th for a potential rehab assignment. That's that part of it according to MLB.com. He's been sidelined since April 24th. It says here, there has not been any reported progress toward a return. If Mangum is cleared for game action when he's evaluated, he'll be in line for a late May return. So not on schedule. Initially they said 10-day, and I got my hopes up thinking, okay, a week and a half he'll be back. Nope, that's not how it's working. Plus they brought up another guy, and he's playing well, and the Rays have won a bunch of games in Jake's absence, and so I hope that he's able to get back. But there's your update, and those are your headlines, brought to you by the Mortgage Man Group, powered by Illuminate Bank right here in Mississippi. Find them online at mortgagemanms.com, mortgagemanms.com. Well, I got a guest. We got a guest. He's the man on your radio when you listen to Mississippi State sports. We used to say he's the play-by-play voice of Mississippi State football and basketball. Now he's just the play-by-play voice for Mississippi State. He's doing all of it. He is Neil Price on your radio right now. And Neil, welcome to the show on a Wednesday. I appreciate a little time. And I think the last time I talked to you here on the show was either right at the beginning of your stint as State's baseball announcer. I don't know if you had done a game yet or not at that time. Now you got a couple of months under your belt. How's it going?
It's getting a little more like normal. It's coming back a little bit. I was joking with guy who took over for me in Lexington, Darren Hedrick, over the weekend when Kentucky was in, and he said the same thing. How does it feel to be back? And I said, the first weekend, I looked out that window and I said, man, this is weird. I hadn't done this in 8 years, but the muscle memory's coming back a little bit. The routine's coming back a little bit. And, hopefully the wins will start to come back a little bit here at the end of the year too, because this is a team that sure needs them with everything to play for coming down the stretch.
Yeah. What about Coach Polk? What's it like? What has it been like? How would you describe what it's been like to be in the booth and work with Coach Polk?
Never a dull moment. You just never know what he's going to say, but you can guarantee that it's going to be what he means. He doesn't say anything that he doesn't mean, and it's amazing. When we get into some discussion, especially about hitters and the mechanics of hitting, all those things, what he knows, or maybe even what he's forgotten, is amazing. Because he can break it down to the nth degree. Mm-hmm. So we're fortunate to have him, and fortunate to still have him around the program. And I'd say the same thing for Jay Powell. Jay can break it down both from a perspective of a pitcher and how you would attack a hitter. He can kind of tell you what State's pitchers are doing when it's going really well. He can almost instantly spot what's not right when things aren't going so great. And I think too that because he's moved into this phase of life where he's been a coach for a while now, that he sees the whole game through that prism and has that perspective. So, it's like I say all the time, whether it's working with you and Jay in football, or whether it's working with Coach Williams in basketball, or Coach Polk and Jay Powell now in baseball, we're really fortunate at State that we've got some people who have some investment in the program, who care about it, who still want to be part of it, and have done it at a high level and can help our fans understand what's going on with our team. We're really fortunate in that respect, because we've got some really good people that are part of our radio broadcast right now.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, as you're broadcasting a game, you kind of get lost in now you start to hear Coach Polk and Jay sort of describing a game. It's like going to school. This way it is for me when I listen to y'all. It's like they'll have little things that they throw out there that to them is just, offhand knowledge. And I'm like, wait a minute, I never thought of that. And do you ever find yourself kind of getting locked into that, or are you able to stay focused?
Oh, no, I think I get locked into some of that sometimes because I'm just genuinely inquisitive. And I never played any sport at a very high level. So to be around people who have coached at the highest level and played at the highest level, I'm always going to be locked into what they've got to say, because they have a track record of success to draw upon that I couldn't even begin to touch. I'll give you a great example. I think it was this past weekend. I was talking to Jay about when you've got a pitcher who comes into a game in a high leverage situation, or guys got to pitch with runners on base in a close game. I said, what do you talk to a guy about when he's in that situation? And Jay would, without hesitation said, well, the thing I always come back to is Game 7 of the World Series. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, because there aren't many people in the world who can say that. Yeah, let me tell you a story about when I was pitching in Game 7 of the World Series with the game on the line. And I'm just like, yeah, tell me about that. That's where we're at, though. And, I just think that's the thing. I hope our fans understand that, and I hope they appreciate it, because while that may sound sometimes just like a throwaway comment from a guy who has played at that level, in a town like Starkville, Mississippi, which is not the biggest town in the SEC, you've got a guy on the radio who can sit there and talk about what it's like to be in that moment because he lived it. Right. That's the part I keep coming back to. It's just we have this embarrassment of riches right now with regard to the people that are willing to share knowledge with our fans on the radio. And I'm just glad to be a very small part of it and try to steer that discussion to where they can kind of be the stars and tell those stories.
Yeah. I think that's a comment I had the other day. I was describing, this has been a year for me. And, a little bit of it is, I'm biased because, I'm friends with you and know them. And so I've listened to more games than I've watched by far this year, and I've really enjoyed it. And I said, like with Jay, I've had times where I'm not a person who gets starstruck. I really never have. Never been an autograph guy or whatever, but I do have a moment every now and then where, I've either been next to Jay or talking to Jay, or I'll be listening to him on the radio, and I think, man, I know this guy, and he pitched to Tony Gwynn. He will tell you stories about pitching to Tony Gwynn and to Barry Bonds. It kind of blows me away a little bit. It's just really cool.
He told me a story one day, and I forget what the context was, but it was on the air. Just about, I think we were talking about matchups and why some pitchers are better matchups against certain hitters than others. And he delivered this anecdote about Mike Piazza. He said, for whatever reason, I had his number. I could get Mike Piazza out. And anytime that we played the Mets or the Dodgers or whoever it was, they'd call on me if the game was on the line, and I'd come in and I'd pitch to Mike Piazza because I had a pretty good record against him. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, and I'm sitting beside a guy who's talking about playing against one of the greatest catchers that's ever played, and could just go up there and get him out. No big deal. Yeah, I got confidence. I don't care who he is. I can go get him out. No problem. And I'm just like, that's not real life to me. Yeah. It's just not. Like, I can't relate to that level, but it sure is cool to sit there with somebody who can relate those experiences. It's a neat deal.
Yeah. Do you ever, and I don't think Coach Polk would mind me asking you this, do you yourself ever come out of a game, you work with Coach Polk, and you go get in your car and you think, man, I smell like cigar smoke? Does that ever happen?
No, because believe it or not, he won't light one up in the booth.
Okay.
When he's in there, he's all business. Now, it doesn't mean that he won't let a cough sneak in every now and then and won't tell you that the reason he's done that is because he's had one or two, or in the case of some of these long rain delays we've had on Friday nights this year, maybe three if it's been long enough of a delay. We were at Memphis, and the team won a game 1st of April, I think, and, much needed in the middle of a week. And he gets a cigar out of his briefcase during the post-game show. And on the air, I asked him, I'd been watching this thing about the Boston Celtics on one of the streaming services. And I said, is that your Red Auerbach victory cigar? And he goes, oh, no, this one gets lit whether we win or lose. No, this is just a cigar. This is my post-game cigar. But he is something else. Yeah. We had a moment a few weeks ago where he loves to have the cough switch. You know, we've got this button in the booth that you can hook a headset up to, and if you need to cough, you can push that button and it mutes the mic, and you know, people don't hear you can clear your throat, whatever, and move on.
Right.
So he loves to have that for obvious reasons. So we got it set up, and he puts his hand on the cough button, and he coughs, clears his throat, and then takes his hand off, and immediately late in a game proceeds to let out this long yawn. And I looked at him, and I said, "You getting tired over there?" And he said, "Oh, did you hear me yawn?" I said, "Everyone just heard you yawn." And he just laughed, and off we went. You know, I mean, he is I didn't know him very well when he was coaching. I think I interviewed him one time when he was coaching, when I was doing games at Kentucky. But I will tell you, from being around people who have known him for a long time, they tell me that he's mellowed, that they think he's having a good time being around the team. He's very comfortable where he is at this stage of life, and I think all of that stuff comes across on air. But I will say this: when the game starts, he locks in, and it's amazing what he will tell you now. It really is, because I mean, you can just tell immediately this is a guy who knows everything about what he's talking about.
100%. Neil Price on your radio right now. Neil, that's what I'm saying. I've had many times, you know, where he will interject some of the like little nuances of managing a game of baseball and how you manage certain situations, you know, runners at first and third and less than 2 outs, and, you know, different things, and, you know, up toes on the edge of the infield, depending on score and time, and you know, the run differential and who you're trying to keep at first and all this kind of stuff. And he just kind of spits it out like it's secondhand knowledge. It's just a passing comment to him, but to me, it'll strike me as, wait a minute, I wish he would elaborate on that, because I didn't think of that. And it's
the path.
Yeah.
The path that Bryce Chance and Michael O'Brien, when he's in the game late, take to fly balls in deep center field.
Yeah.
He got into that one night, and I said something about, you know, Bryce just being really steady playing in center, and he goes, part of the reason he's that way is because he takes an economy of steps to get to the ball. He gets a good jump, but he takes the right path every time. And I'm like, yeah, like I never played that position, obviously, but it's fascinating to me that the way you open your hips, the first step, all that stuff, he gets through all of that. Yeah, and it just seems so matter of fact in the way that he says it, but you think about it and you go, yeah, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, that's right. And then what I do is my mind begins to wander into trying to think, okay, well, how many years and then how many practices and meetings was he coaching that to how many different guys over the course of his career? And that's why to him it's just second nature. It's really, I think you phrased it perfectly earlier, Neil, and you were touching on, you know, as fans, I just hope we appreciate how cool it is to be able to tune in and listen to that stuff between he and Jay. And pairing it up with you, and I know you didn't come on here, you don't want a pat on the back, but you do such an excellent job too. It's the best college baseball broadcast in the country, I'm convinced, and it's really neat to get to listen to it every week. How's that for a compliment? Huh?
Well, I appreciate that. You know, and I don't know that I'm just the mule in the Kentucky Derby as it relates to who I'm on there with, but at the same time, you know, I mean, those two guys will force you to raise your game. There's no question about that, because you want to be level to it. And I haven't gotten it all right this year. But like I told you earlier, it feels a little bit more natural now than it did at the beginning of the year. You know, and it's fun. It is. When the game starts, it's great. And the people have been wonderful. The team's been great. The coaches have been great. That's all you can ask for.
Sure.
And I hope that we're in the midst of something here where they can keep this little run going over the course of the next couple of weeks, and that they get a chance to extend their season, because that'd be some kind of story to tell if it happens for them. It really would.
Yeah. Neil, about a minute left here before the music begins. I guess goes without saying it's a big one this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. I mean, you're playing your rival, and I think that's always a big deal. But the other piece of it is the margin for error is incredibly slim as it relates to qualifying for a regional. So you got to take it one game at a time, as cliche as that sounds, to keep trying to string these wins together. And I think they've done a really good job of that. The things I think they can carry into this, they've got some guys right now, older guys in that lineup that are really locked in and seem to have really good approaches at the plate. Their bullpen this past weekend was the bullpen that we saw for the bulk of that first half of the year, and I think that's a huge positive. Evan Sierra's pitching better in that Saturday start role, so you feel a little bit better about what you're getting there, and he's getting them into the middle of the game before he has to hand that thing off. And Pico is Pico. You kind of know what you're going to get out of him. He's going to go out there and compete and battle and get you into the middle of the game, or hopefully get it to where you can hand it off in the 6th or 7th. So I think they got a lot of positive momentum. They just can't get hung up on, they got to approach the game that's right in front of them. They can't get hung up on, we got to have this many this weekend, this many next weekend. Yeah. Just the next one, I think, is the big thing for them.
It is, one at a time. Neil, I really appreciate it. Been fun to catch up with you here. You're doing a great job. We're enjoying listening. We talk about it here on the show, and we'll be listening this weekend. Thank you, buddy.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you. That's Neil Price. He is Hail State Voice on social media. He's a play-by-play announcer for Mississippi State up there with Coach Polk and Jay. And they're a fun crew to listen to, man. They really are. Yeah, Jason, quoting Coach Polk, these high-tech space heaters. Y'all stick around.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. murraywest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I had this opportunity come up through a friend of mine that was an agent here at Farm Bureau that, he said this may be something I like to do because he knew I was involved in the community. And what we do, we're supporting the community. We're doing stuff to protect the members of our community. I've been here almost a decade. And what we do, we help people every day through the products we sell. We make recommendations to them, stuff to protect their assets, protect their lives, their families, and we're local. We're local people. Everybody that works in this office has grown up here, lived here, played ball in this community. I've coached in this community, been on the park boards, the sports league boards, the booster club boards. The community is what's important here in Farm Bureau. We push the local community. We're a Mississippi company. That's a Washington School team ball from 2019. Greg Wallace was the head coach then, and him and I were really good friends. I've been in Greenville my whole entire life. My family's been here. This is home. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to support the people of Washington County, protect them. I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County. We are the home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that. What that is. That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now.
Worry, he's got a menu full on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at the Zone1059.com.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt in the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. You can be a part of the show. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Neil Price, the play-by-play announcer for Mississippi State. Of course, he's doing baseball now too. You know, it's just you get a little bit of everything when you listen to the current broadcast. It's the best college baseball broadcast, like, as a whole, that I've ever heard. And of course, you do get an alternation between Coach Polk and Jay along with him, but they're both great in their own right. Sammy says on Facebook, Coach Polk is a non-believer in bunting / small ball. So he don't believe in it. Okay. He doesn't believe in bunting and moving the runners over. And I wonder, and Sammy, you've picked up on that by just listening to him on the broadcast? Is that what it is? It'd be fascinating to learn, to get to the bottom of that, and learn where that comes from, wouldn't it? Jason, he commented in Flagstaff. He said, I can't listen to TV anymore, even when I watch the game. I have to sync it up to the radio stream because I feel like I'm going to miss something otherwise. That's the way I feel, Jason. You listen to a few games with Jay or Coach Polk along with Neil, you feel like you're missing something if you don't. So that's the way I feel about it. I got to hear what they say. He says same and more so for football on ESPN. Oh, I'm sorry. I said it. I'm supposed to say the acronym. I'm not supposed to say their name. The acronym, Jason. Yeah, but the comment from Coach Polk about the high-tech space heaters. He's something now. Delta Dog on the country pleasing text line. Again, the number to text is 885-3776. Got it? That's a 601 number. 885-3776. Delta Dog says, I don't know if Coach Polk really said this, but it sounds like him. I saw a T-shirt at last week's game that said, yeah, Polk was thrown out arguing balls and strikes. The ump told him to get out of his sight. Polk went and stood on home plate. So he said, I think Coach Polk told the story himself. He said, the umpire told me to go somewhere that he couldn't see me anymore. He said, so I went and stood on home plate. Yeah, and I'll tell you this too. That's another thing. If you've ever had the chance to get in on one of these, you'll know what I'm talking about. But like a speaking engagement, which Coach Polk has a ton of those throughout the year in different, just venues of all shapes and sizes all over the place where he gets invited to go speak. And yeah, it's usually baseball related. But if you go to, let's just say, if he's like a featured speaker at a first pitch banquet somewhere, and if they've got a coach or some people there he knows, you get to hear some of the sense of humor too, because he picks on people. You know, he'll roast them a little bit, and he has a repertoire of, you know, one-liners and roast jokes that is absolutely second to none. He is some kind of character. Somebody texted in and said, would Justin Parker be a lazy hire? Question mark. And then said, Mingione just got swept. The unnamed texter said, if we can't pull Virginia's or Florida State's former Notre Dame coach, then who? Well, you know, who knows whose agent is out there trying to, you know, just leverage their name against that opening at State to get them a raise where they are. I would, you know, the guy, hang on. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I can picture him. I know exactly who we're talking about. He was Notre Dame's coach whenever they came to State for the Super Regional a few years ago. Link Jarrett, right? And then he went to Florida State from Notre Dame. His first year at Florida State, not great, but they've really picked it up since. But see, Link Jarrett played at Florida State. That's sort of home for him. And, you know, he just doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would, you know, replace the legend at Florida State and then up and leave for another job anytime soon. Now, and I know there's been lots of talk about the Virginia coach, O'Connor. But, you know, again, that's one. Yes, I know that there's been talk. I think the first time I heard his name in a conversation was when my friend Craig called this show and brought his name up. And then you start going, yeah, okay, now, we're talking pie in the sky. That's what you're talking about right there, a guy like that, if he's interested in the job. But in terms of, you know, actual legit connection to reaching out and agents talking and interviewing and all that kind of stuff, I haven't talked to anybody that would know, that has said, oh yeah, there's a definite connection there, or there's definite interest. I mean, as far as I know, it's just somebody came up with his name one day. So I don't really know. Now, you know, I love from a State perspective, love the idea of a young person, because I kind of sort of feel like that's maybe what it takes in this current era to accumulate talent on your roster. Not only do you have to outspend other programs, but you got to out hustle them too. And it may take some youth in there to do that. But so I don't know. But to answer your question directly, would Justin Parker be a lazy hire? I mean, it all depends on how the rest of the year goes. I mean, I'm saying, like, if they did it today, it's not going to happen. Let's say they did it today. They said he's permanent. Well, then that's a little bit lazy, right? Because you don't let it play out. But they're not going to do that. And so in reality, it just depends on how the year plays out. You just swept one team at home. Let's see what you do this weekend. And this team goes on some long postseason run out of nowhere and totally flips the switch. You got different factors to consider than you do right now. And the other thing to me, look, on the Nick Mingione thing, I'm looking at it from arm's length, from a distance, and I'm just trying to look at it practically, going, who cares what his buyout is? If you feel like he's the guy, if you're making the hire and you are convinced that's who you need, then who cares what his buyout is? Round up the money some way and pay it. Be done with it. Move on. If you got to have him, you got to have him. If you're convinced that's the guy, that's one thing. And then the other thing is, okay, you're telling me that there are people who would say that prior to last weekend, he should be heavily considered for the job. But then he gets swept in a series in Starkville, and therefore he shouldn't then be considered. So in 3 days, he went from he should be at the top of the list to he shouldn't be considered because of one series and Starkville's team gets swept. See, I don't buy that either. I don't think any of that's reality. So again, it's an I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. If I were making the decision and I, after interviewing and talking to people and agents, weighing everything out, and I sat down one day and went, you know what? The best guy for this job is Nick Mingione. Who cares what his buyout is? Wouldn't pay it. Won't even think twice. Acting as though he's got an expensive buyout is the hang-up. I don't think it is. I think, maybe other things are. A team that, as like I said, he's had a team that they're always kind of involved in some sort of back and forth with the other team and showing them up, and you draw a walk and you bat flip and shenanigans in the dugout. Those kinds of things to me are a whole lot more of a maybe a negative on the resume than the fact that you might have a buyout. Not in that world. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Denzel, what was it? Denzel, you said on the Country Pleasing text line, Matt, y'all were talking about how what sides people are having when they invite you over. He said, y'all mentioned that when it comes to fish, you think baked beans. Now hold on. Okay. You said, if you want the best baked beans ever, prepare them normally, but add in apple pie filling. Game changer. And then he says, don't knock it till you try it. Okay, I've heard of and been around some baked bean recipes, White Denzel, that did involve sweet stuff. Hey, am I crazy, or are there people who make their baked beans and they put syrup in them when they're cooking them? Don't I have that right? Some of them put brown sugar in them? Seriously, when they cook them. Which I bet there's some brown sugar in apple pie filling or something similar. Sounds good. But I will tell you what I think. I said it was kind of like a tertiary side at a fish fry. The main fish fry sides, and you know it every time. Hush puppies and French fries. That's right. They don't even have to say we're going to have hush puppy and French fries. If you say we're having a fish fry, you just know that's going to be involved, and most likely slaw. The tertiary would be every now and then some baked beans in there too. All right. I got a little bit of time left with you here today. This is a 1-hour show today. But we got some time left. So on the other side, I'll get to your text from Delta Dog, Jason, and Junior 49, and all y'all. Stick around.
Do you really need to study game film in bed?
That's what they said in line at the bank,
Y'all
too.
heard me talk about Murray West and murraywest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. Say they do quality stuff. They really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, I mean, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, murraywest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online, MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I'm 𝗙𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗂 with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm 𝗠𝗶𝘀𝘀𝗶𝗀𝗂 with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both. Break me off a piece of that. Look at that. You know what that is? That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country pleasing sausage, these flavors, and many, many others. Get them online at countrypleasing.com. At a grocery store near you, pretty much anywhere in the Southeast. Walk up in there and say, "Country pleasing, please." They'll know what you're talking about.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here, leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area. The blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5,
All right, let's see here. What does Sven say? Sven on the YouTube live stream, he's in Germany, and he asked Kobe if he was ready for Egg Bowl. See, baseball, so can we call it the Egg Bowl, or do you have to say the Egg Bowl of baseball? Then Sven went on to say 2 things today. First, that umpire who umped the state LSU softball game an hour ago should be banned. I saw some stuff on social media from state fans who are ticked off at that umpire. Last I looked, it was, 5-0 LSU? Is that how it ended? There in the SEC tournament? Whatever. And then Sven says, secondly, Zach Selman will not pay $6 million buyout for Wes Johnson. So that is one reason why state is terrible in football. We don't give the coaches the resources to compete. Then Sven said, why all these players and coaches left since COVID? It's because of money, 99.9% of all cases. Now, Blind Squirrel is a big Georgia fan, and so he said, I'm glad to hear that, Sven. Wes is doing an outstanding job in Athens. Yes, he is. Did I see they had him ranked? Somebody had him ranked number 1, didn't they? Somebody. Yeah. Okay, and somebody had commented about Coach Polk being against bunting and playing small ball. Jason in Flagstaff says Coach Polk isn't against bunting per se. Said he made that clear on Sunday. He's against sacrificing an easy out just to move a guy over when a regular hit would do the same thing, or putting the ball in play, make him make the play. Okay. Yeah, Junior 49. Okay, so someone brought up Link Jarrett, the Florida State baseball coach, who, he's been there only a few short years after leaving Notre Dame. He was Notre Dame's coach when they came to Starkville for that super regional a few years ago. They had a really good team, and he did a great job there. And then he went back to his alma mater. He played at Florida State for Coach Martin down there. And Coach Martin retired and has since passed away, you know. And so he's filling those shoes. He's now the head coach at Florida State. And someone mentioned him for the state job. And I was like, well, you know, I just don't see him leaving his alma mater. Junior 49 says, Matt, Cohen played for us and he jumped ship. He did. He did after not a coaching gig, right, but AD gig. Left and went to Auburn. Yeah, I mean, so that's it. I think probably in those coaching search things, you probably never say never. You probably never say never on any of it. And whether anybody likes it or not, it's also true that historically, in lots of sports, just look at the last 20 years, find umpteen examples of coaches who they did come out and say, happy where I am, not interested. And then boom, next thing you know, they left. Took the job. I mean, so sometimes you can't even go strictly by what they say. Denzel, yeah, we were talking. You're right, Denzel. We were talking about that yesterday, and Baked Beans was in on it too. I think what I was talking about was, and I said to Beaver, okay, if somebody says to you, hey, come over, we're going to grill hamburgers, what do you automatically know you're going to have with it? Plain Lay's, potato chips, and probably baked beans. You just assume. And you're probably right in that assumption. Probably. Okay, and listen, we touched on this earlier in the show. We had headlines and the fact that Dak's getting a new receiver. What do y'all make of this? Just real quick, okay, I'm sure every national thing's talking about it, so I don't want to do the echo chamber thing, but this is Dak. So I want to say this. My buddy Prince, some of y'all know him. Denzel, you know him. My buddy Philip Prince, the Prince of Neshoba County. He's somewhere promoting the Junction right now as we speak, but on social media, he is simultaneously, at the same time, the biggest Cowboys fan and Cowboys hater at the same time I've ever seen. I love that guy to death, but he had a good point. Okay, as soon as this popped out there today about the Cowboys trading away future draft picks, none of them first rounders, at like a 2 and then a 5 and then a 7 for George Pickens, the receiver from Pittsburgh. And he's, as a Cowboys fan, he goes, let me get this straight. So one of the historically best run organizations in NFL history, trading a player to the worst run organization in NFL history, he goes, and I'm supposed to be excited. Now, I know I'm laughing at it, but then it made me think, okay, I've seen other people say, hey, listen, this is the Steelers we're talking about. If they really want, if they were confident how great this guy is, he would. I know they've made some moves, and now what? Steelers now have DK Metcalf and a couple of others. I don't know, but just strictly X's and O's, you sure do like it for Dak and for Lamb, and he's, this is a guy who, if healthy, is a real just one-on-one threat all the time, especially up the field, even on those underthrown deep balls. Dak doesn't really underthrow a ton of deep balls. He usually throws them really well and puts them out there, but this guy's a threat. So that's probably a good trade. If he's healthy and upright, it's a good trade as long as there's a fit in your locker room, which is a big unknown. I also mentioned this. If you just tuned in and missed this earlier, you might want to know it. RotoWire reporting alongside of MLB.com that Jake Mangum is still not close to coming back for Tampa. It said that now Mangum is going to be evaluated the week of May the 19th for a potential rehab assignment. MLB.com reported that. He's been sidelined since April 24th. There has not been any reported progress toward a return. if Mangum is cleared for game action when he's evaluated, he could be in line for a late May return. Okay, so when they evaluate him on the week of May the 19th, if he's cleared for game action, he might, it says might, maybe, could, possibly, you just don't know, but might get be in line to head back to the major leagues and join Tampa in late May. But so that's where we are. We're going to have to wait a while if we want to watch Jake play again. So there's your update. Hey, yeah, I did see this. Denzel said, speaking of The Godfather, talking about my man Prince, his daughter Miriam transferred from Louisiana Monroe to his alma mater, USM, last week. Huge get for the Southern Miss women's basketball team. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I want to go watch her play. Let's do it. Let's load up one day, jump in the car with Philip, and let's go to Hattiesburg and watch Miriam play. Didn't they just hire the coach away from ULM who had previously been at Jones? Who's a really good coach. Like she's won everywhere she's been, I think. Denzel. Real C text the show. What's up? Said if the Rays mess with Jake and downgrade him, maybe we can convince him to come be the guy at State. What, just come right in there and coach? Just walk away from it and come on back and just start your coaching career at 29, 30. Shoot, man, Jake could do it. Jake's just one of those guys that been saying that for years, and it's clear it's not even going out on a limb. Everybody knows it. It's like whatever he decides to do, he's going to do really well at it. He's just one of those. You say, if he wants to play Major League Baseball, guess what? He will. And guess what? He has. If he wanted to be the president of the United States, guess what? He would. If he wanted to be State's head baseball coach, he would. It's just whatever he sets his sights on, he's going to be able to do it. I just enjoy watching him play. And since I started following him and watching all the Rays games, it was a lot of fun. I have not stayed with the Rays as much since he got hurt. I'm just being real. But what it did do is kind of got me in the mode of, I go in there on MLB.com and on the app on my smart TV most days and watch the little 10-minute recaps of some of these games. And so like the A's, if Rooker hits a home run or two, I'll go back and watch the recap if I missed it. Frazier in Pittsburgh and a couple of guys in Kansas City and, Westburg in Baltimore. Some of these guys I go back and I'm really enjoying watching the former players who you watch play in college, and keeping up with them at the major league level. It's become kind of a fun little hobby. No, Denzel Beaver is here. He is not out today, but that's going to wrap it up. I got a 1-hour version today. I got to go see a man about a dog. There you go. J-Rock says he would take Jake Mangum as the head coach and Jay Powell as a pitching coach. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for being here with us for an hour today. For Beaver, I'm Matt. All of us here on the show in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. We'll see you tomorrow. See you.